Check out this example right here. It says if you had 4 math tests that were given, you have a total of 4 math tests. The grades on them are 79%, an 85%, and 86%, and an 88%. And the question here is, what do you want, if you want your average to be at least, so right here it says at least 85. You want your score to be at least an 85%. These are the 4 tests that you've taken so far. We want to take one more. This is 4 total tests that you've done. And it says right here, what grade would you have to get on your 5th test? That means one more test. You have to have one more, so that would be a total of 5 tests total. Unknown, we don't know what it is. That's our variable. That's what we want to figure out. It says we want to get at least an 85%. The words at least means that we want to be larger than or equal to 85% on our overall grade. And if that's true, you can see these are pretty close to 85%, right? But this one's kind of low, so you'll know that you'll have to score sort of in this 80 range. You could guess, but there's a better way. When it says mean, what does mean mean? I mean, this is kind of a tricky question because the words mean is the average. Average is add them all up, divide by how many there are. And there will be 5 tests, including this unknown variable. All right? And so we're going to write in inequalities. 79 plus 85 plus 86 plus 88 and plus finally an x variable. Okay, then this is all going to be divided by, and we're going to say divide by 5, because that's how I would average them. Add them all up, divide by 5. Okay, I need that to be, my overall average score needs to be at least 85. So at least is greater than or equal to 85 as my final answer. Now that's kind of what makes this one tricky, is because it takes some creative thinking, some digging into what each of these things mean, and what does at least mean, and how do I write it out. Once you see this the first time, then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I need to average them with a variable because I don't know what that last test score is. That's what my unknown is. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So now I'm just going to solve it, all right? And I solve it by, I like to write a line straight down on my inequality. That means that side versus this side. I want to isolate the variable. Isolating the variable means, why don't I take a calculator and add all these up? So I'm going to go 79 plus 85 plus 86 plus 88, and I get a big number, and that's okay because it's going to be 338 plus x, and it's going to be all divided by 5. Okay, you can do that. You can add all those up, and this will be greater than or equal to 85 as my answer so far. Well, I want to get rid of this first. Remember how these work? You got to clear that part first, all right? You got to undo the dividing by 5. You can't deal with this part first. You got to deal with the all divided by 5 part, right? So the opposite of dividing by 5 is to multiply by 5, all right? It is not a negative number, so I do not need to change the inequality. Leave it the same, okay? These will cancel out right here. I cancel the 5 with the 5, and I rewrite it as this will be 338 plus x is going to be greater than or equal to, and we go 85 times 5 should be 425, should be my total on this side. And I'm going to subtract 338 from both sides, and I get minus 338 here and minus 338 on both sides. I draw a line under that, these cross out, I end up with x is greater than or equal to, and you do a little subtraction, minus 338, and you get 87, which is sort of what I expected, somewhere in that middle to upper 80 range, and it needs to be a little higher because of that 79, because it's a little low compared to the rest of the values, and so this will have to average just a little bit higher, and so my final answer is my next test score needs to be larger than or equal to 87 as my final score. Okay, so some of these are a little tricky to write out, or to get some creative ideas about how to set this up. The setup on this is a little tricky, all right? Let's do one more, all right? Let's do one more. Looks like this, okay? If you need a mean score of at least 90 points to advance to the next round of this random trivia game, okay? Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, Game 4, you have 4 scores. Again, same setup as the last question. If it's a trivia game and you got these scores, but you want an average, you want the mean. Remember we said X bar is actually a way to represent the mean. You want it to be larger than or equal to. That's what this word at least means. Greater than or equal to 90 points. You want it to be larger than. What does that mean? What does it mean? This symbol means the mean. And so it's right here. This is the average. Add them all up. Divide by how many there are. I already have 4 scores. I need 5. All right. What's the next score to advance to the? What do you need on the next? It says right here, what scores for the 5th game will allow you to advance? All right. Write them all down. We would set it up right like this: 95 plus 91. And I know to do this, I know to add them all up and divide by how many there are, because that's the definition for finding the average or the mean. All right, 89. And I would do one more game. One more game. I'm going to say X. You could say G or whatever you want for your number of games. I divide those by how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 games. And one more is 5. So divide by 5 again. And I need it to be larger than or equal to 90. Because that's the score I need. In order to advance, I need an average score to get to the next round of trivia. Okay, add them all up. So what I like to do is condense these ones. See all of these right here. I sort of like to condense all those so that it gets smaller. And so I'm going to go 95 plus 91 plus 77 plus 89. And what do we get? 3, darker color here. 352, and then it's going to be plus what? One more score, all divided by 5, is greater than or equal to 90 as my average. Okay, and then I need to get rid of the 5. You cannot deal with the 352 yet. You must subtract the, or get rid of the 5. This is dividing by 5, so the opposite of dividing by 5 is to multiply by 5 on both sides. That will allow me to cancel these out. Cancel those right there, and you will end up with 352 plus X, and it's going to be greater than or equal to, and you go 90 times 5 equals 450. Okay, once I get to that point, it gets a lot easier, doesn't it? I'm not multiplying or dividing by a negative number, so you do not need to flip the inequality at all. All you do is subtract 352 from the other side, minus 352 from this side, and cross these out. They will go away because positive, and you subtract the same number and it turns into 0. And I rewrite it. My final answer is X is greater than or equal to, I have 450 in my calculator, and I divide, don't divide, subtract 352, and you get 98. 98 is the score I will need, which makes sense because you see that score, 77? 77 is a little low compared to the rest of these, right? And so it's actually a lot low compared to the rest of these. And so you will need a decent score, a score of a 98 or larger. Your score needs to be greater than or equal to 98 in order to advance to the next round. All right, perfect.